It's Divas That Care Radio. Stories, strategies, and ideas to inspire positive change. Welcome to Divas That Care, a network of women committed to making our world a better place for everyone. This is a global movement for women, by women, engaged in a collaborative effort to create a better world for future generations. To find out more about the movement, visit divasthatcare.com after the show. Right now, though, stay tuned for another jolt of inspiration.
Hello to all. Welcome to Divas That Care Network. I am Joyce Benning, and I will be your host for this magical, robust lifestyle show. I would like to thank each one of our listeners today for listening to the recording on these podcasts. I am just so very grateful and thankful for each and every one of you. And you are all in for a very amazing show today, as I have with me a returning diva, Dr. Susan Kurz. And her and I are going to do some chatting about connecting with the treasures within. So with that, Susanna, would you please introduce yourself to our listeners today?
Yes, thank you for the introduction, Joyce. I'm really happy to be back, and thank you very much for having me again. And I am a scholar, coach, and creator. It's how I've dubbed myself because I'm very multi-passionate. I'm also German, as you can hear from my accent. And most of my life I've spent in academia as a university researcher and teacher on the cultural history of the Persian-speaking world during the times of Islam. Until then, I decided that I wanted to do something else. And I think we have covered that in our first interview, how that came about. And I went on to become a life coach. And meanwhile, I've also unfolded a lot of other passions and abilities, so to speak. And I'm also bringing these two things together now, the life coaching, where I'm using hypnosis as my main tool, and some spiritual experiences that I've had, and my academic experience and knowledge in a high fantasy TV show that I'm developing now. And I've just opened, sorry, I have a little bit of a cough at the moment. Okay, I hope I get rid of that now. Okay, and I have just recently opened another branch on my business, which is now called Susanne Kurz Coaching and Media, in last autumn, because I'm helping people who have a podcast, who are mainly coaches and healers, spiritual people, conscious people, who have a message, and I'm helping them to become more visible by entering their podcast or their YouTube series on IMDb, the International Movie Database. And I'm really hoping to build a network there for these great people with their awesome podcasts and their very important messages to get more traction there. So that's what I'm doing. And today I've brought an idea to go a bit deeper into the hypnosis and trance topic.
Oh, wow. You are doing so many different things to help other people. That is just amazing. So as we go into connecting with the treasures within, I will just let you start to share what you would like for our listeners to hear today.
Thank you. I wanted to introduce a technique that I think I've mentioned in our first or maybe even our second interview about my own journey, a tool that I've used as a breakthrough tool to get back in touch with my inner power, my inner guidance system. I had lost touch with that. I had cut myself off that pretty much during, I think, my late 20s, my early 30s, because I got, into a situation where I had felt a lot of responsibility. I had more more of a lifestyle to support. So I was really frightened about money, and that really blocked a lot of things that were actually pointing me into a different direction from, let's say, my mid-30s onwards. And then I noticed that something was problematic. I had, for the first time in my life, I had a problem to find orientation, to find the right path for myself. I never had that problem. It was totally new for me. I mean, most people, I think, have that when they come from out of school and have to decide what to do with their lives. And I never had this problem. It was completely new in my mid to late 30s. So that's I'm a bit late with this experience. But yeah, I try to figure out how to get back in touch with this inner guidance that I had always had, and this feeling also of inner strength that I discovered then came with my breakthrough tool, and that was a hypnotic trance state. And I found out that I really love trance states, always have loved them my whole life, but I didn't know it were trance states. So that was what I learned when I learned about hypnosis, and got hypnotized the first time myself, and then learned to do it with other people. I learned that I've been in trance states, as all of us have, naturally, and that I have loved these always. I was really, I think, from being a little baby, because one of the times when I get into a trance state is when I'm in a car that is driving, and I'm sitting next to the driver or on the back seat, and that gets me into a trance state. And I think a lot of people know how that feels. This warm, cozy, lovely feeling you get into when you're in a car. And sometimes it's a bit different, but when you're driving and you know the street, and you don't have to think about anything, and it's not very heavy traffic or anything. So sometimes you even get into that state when you are driving. And I've been told that when I was brought from the hospital to home when I was a baby, freshly born, and they went under a certain velocity, so that they drove faster or more slowly, depending on the traffic. And when it got too slow, then I started crying. And when they could drive on, then I stopped crying. So I think that trance state was something I even loved as a baby. And I thought that's really, I found that's really helpful. Why is a hypnotic trance state helpful? Because it's a state in which you are really relaxed and you feel well, and you don't have as much interference of your chatty, rational mind as you usually have when you are in your, normal state of being, and not in a trance state. And that's actually the real power of it. I mean, hypnosis and trance states are often associated with show hypnosis. That's what most people think about when they hear the word hypnosis. And that has led to a couple of misconceptions, because people think then that you, for example, the hypnotist has some power over people and can make them do things they don't want to do. And that's not the case. It's actually people who do something in a hypnotic trance state, and because of a suggestion, they still have an inner agreement to that. If they don't have an inner agreement to that and don't do that, then don't want to do that, then they won't do that. So you can't really force people into that, not into the state, and not into doing something in the state that they don't want. What can happen when you are in a very deep trance is that you can't remember what happened in the trance state afterwards, but that's usually not what happens on a stage. So essentially you have the power to go into a trance state or to not go into a trance state, and irrespective of what the hypnotist says. And that's mainly because hypnosis is always self-hypnosis. It's kind of you go along with what the hypnotist says and follow their words. And that's why you have to build trust before, as a hypnotist, with your client. Because if they don't trust you, they won't go along and follow your suggestions. And then it won't work. And the real power of hypnosis and the trance state in under hypnosis is that you can access deeper layers of wisdom and strength by that. Obviously, with the consent of the client. And the mechanism is that you first induce physical relaxation through a guided meditation. And that also gets you away from feelings of fear and stress and all that, because you can't be physically relaxed and fearful or stressed at the same time. So we lead the person, the client, away from that, or ourselves, because you also can do self-hypnosis, and you get out of your head, you go into the body. And that means you then can bypass the rational mind. It's kind of like diving beneath the rational mind. And obviously you can later on evaluate your experience and your conclusions and results with your rational mind. No problem with that. But while you are in a hypnotic trance state, you can access a deeper level. And you will not block everything before it even comes up. And that's what often happens with the rational mind, that you may have an idea of a solution or something that's good for you now, or a path you want to go down actually, and would be the right thing for you right now. But your rational mind jumps in even before you really can develop that, and says, yeah, but how is that going to work? How are you going to do this or that? For me, it often mostly was, and how are you going to earn the amount of money you need with that? and then it's shut down, and you can't even really evaluate it. And sometimes you don't even notice that something like that has come up, because it's squashed so quickly. So that's what we circumvent in the hypnotic trance. We access deeper levels and go on a discovery journey. And then you can explore ideas, solutions, your inner wisdom, your resources. You can also access your resources. So your power, your strength that you need for whatever issue you have at the moment and whatever you want to solve. And you just can experience and connect to this enormous inner strength that we all have within us. Excuse me, the cough is coming up again. So, and that is something I wanted to introduce, because it's actually my main offer on the life coaching spectrum of my business. That I do these trance journeys to the power within, and one session can last up to 3 hours. Usually you have a bit of a discussion before, a pre-talk, and it then can take 90 minutes or 2 hours to just dive in, or potentially longer. I never have had a session like that, that all in all, with the talk and everything, took less than 2.5 hours. And we usually take one question or one issue, and then just go within and see what happens there and what we find. And I lead the client through that with my questions. Sometimes I give a suggestion. Answers can be verbally, or we can do it idiomotorically, so with, for example, finger signs, so the person can go deeper into their inner world and don't have to, get up in their head again to formulate something, to phrase something, because that is sometimes when you want to go really deep, it can be distracting. And yeah, I've had really interesting client experiences also. I had a client who, for the first time, actually discovered their heart area. They said, "Oh wow, I didn't know there is something between my gut and my head." And they thought that there's a heart area there, and was totally excited about that. And it was a great feeling. Obviously, trance is always a great feeling to have. And they could reconnect with their own needs that were buried under ideas of duty and performance and whatever, and then actually find practical decisions for the current situation, led by this new connection to their inner world and their own needs. And someone else also, they discovered emotions they had suppressed all of the time, and in that emotion there was a new strength coming up. So it's really fascinating to go into that into this inner world, onto this discovery journey with people. And I think for someone, I mean, there are a lot of people who can do it themselves through meditation simply, and get there and find this connection to their inner world and to the source of their strength, and all the answers that are there essentially. And there also are people who just have it on command, and know what the inner guidance is saying, and feel that, and go with the feeling and go with the flow. People who can do that. I could do that with big decisions when I was younger. I've often described it. I have just recently found someone who described it very similarly. Going by intuition is essentially, you don't make a decision. You don't feel like you make a decision. It's like it's just obvious. So the thing you should decide about is just obvious. That's actually how I made my decision about in which field to go into. That was something obviously I had gathered a lot of information and details to base it on, but then it was just like what felt right and what was obvious, and things like, picking your partner for life and things like that. Or even jobs. I had a really lovely, relatively long academic job that I picked that way because it just felt right. It was just obvious. And I didn't reflect on that earlier in life, because then I had to lose it in order to reflect on it and find my way back. But everyone who has difficulty with that, who just doesn't have it on demand, or has difficulty doing it themselves through a meditation, to access it themselves through a meditation, I think will benefit from this sort of journey of hypnotic trance state, because I like to think of it as a shortcut. It's kind of a shortcut to this inner power and these treasures that you can find inside yourself. And obviously it's very helpful if you have difficulty, for example, to follow a recording. You can do that. There are people who can do that very well, but I always struggled with that, because on the second time I listen to a recording, I already know what's coming, and then I get bored and I think of other things. I go off the track, and so that can, and if you have a very busy mind, that can be a problem. But if you have someone who guides you through that, then that's different. You have a different focus, and it's essentially a focus that goes that narrows down and goes on the inside, and you just blend out the outside things, and you go in the inside, and that's how you can how you can access these deeper levels with this different focus. So I think that's really really a great tool and a great thing to have a shortcut, a breakthrough, and then you can, after that, when you have this connection, you have experienced the connection, which is really strong and also can help you to follow through with things that you know are good for you, but everyone else wants to convince you that it's not the case. Then that can really help you, this inner conviction and feeling that this is the right thing, to actually follow through. And yeah, I think that's a really, really fascinating and helpful thing, which is why I'm so convinced of hypnosis. I think that's the real power of hypnosis. Of course, you can give people suggestions and do something like what you can do with affirmations yourself. You can do all that, and that works. And there are colleagues who are making all their money with that, and it can work really well. There are also people who are more receptive to that than others, but that's not the thing that I find is the biggest power of it. The biggest power of it is to, in my opinion, to connect you with yourself, with your inner self, with your deeper layers, with your intuition, with your guidance system, and then you can go back to that connection and can train to have to keep the connection. Then obviously that needs training, but you can do that. You can do it more easily when you have been there once. So that's the theoretical part of it. And do you have any questions on it?
Well, Susanna, I can just hear the passion in your voice. You love what you're doing by helping your clients with the hypnosis and helping them to get out of their head and go inside and find that inner strength. And like you said, those answers that are lying inside of you. And you are just bubbling with it. I can just hear it in your voice, and it is just awesome. I'm so excited to continue this. We have come very close to the close of our show today, which I knew it would go so quickly. So I must ask, will you please return to Robust Lifestyles so we can continue more of this connecting with the treasures within? And maybe at that time, you can go through the meditation and continue bringing in what you have to share through your passion to our listeners.
Yeah, I would love to do that, especially as I'm really burning to get to the point where we actually take our listeners through the meditation so they can experience that for themselves. I would love to come back for that. And I think we have now slowly chipped away all the theory and the pre-talk work, and can then go on to really do the practical things on the next show.
Oh, that sounds fantastic, Susanna. I love it. So with that, would you please share with our listeners the best ways that they may connect with you when they hear this and say, I would like to connect with Susanna, because I'm sure you do these hypnosis. Can you do them remotely also?
Yes, I actually have switched to completely remotely. So I do them via video chat. Mm-hmm. And I also have a special platform for that. So it's GDPR compliant, so there's nobody has to worry about their personal details going on some servers that may be seen by people who aren't supposed to see it. So yes, I'm doing it remotely. And so I can do it with pretty much anybody from all over the world. And currently, I don't have a shopping cart for that at the moment. So currently, you would need to just send me an email at info@susannekurz-coaching.de. That we need to have in the description, I think, because right from hearing it, it's difficult, especially for English speakers, to understand. And that's also my website. It's Susanne Kurz coaching.de. But I also have a Facebook page. My website is still in German. I'm working on it, but you can obviously use Google Translate or something. The translation function, it's not perfect, but it's not as bad as it used to be. And I have a Facebook page which is in English and in German, and that's called Susanne Kurz Coaching and Media.
Oh, perfect. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of that golden nuggets for all of our listeners today, and for letting them know you will be back to continue this conversation of connecting with the treasures within and helping them to be able to do this. And with that, I want to thank you so much for being on Robust Lifestyles, and wish you a magical day, and may magic be with you every day until we connect again on Robust Lifestyles, Susanna.
Thank you, Joyce, and until next time.
Oh, you're so welcome. And I want to thank all of our listeners for listening to this amazing show with our incredible diva, Dr. Susanne Kurz. Please share this show with all your family and friends. Check out all the hosts and their shows on divasthatcare.com. And remember, some of the golden nuggets she already gave you was it helps you to go out of your head and connect with that inner strength, which all of us have. So deep down inside of us, it's just connecting and letting go of the head thoughts that so want to rule our lives. And with that, I want to wish each of you a magical day. Be kind to all. Give your animals a great big extra hug, and share all your love with them as they so deserve it. And until we connect again on Robust Lifestyles, stay strong and healthy.
Thanks for listening. This show was brought to you by Divas That Care. Connect with us on Facebook, on Instagram, and of course on divasthatcare.com, where you can subscribe to our newsletter so you don't miss a thing.